And while the MA hardware is fantastic, sometimes a lot of people can't afford to have the fader wing or a console. Sometimes all they've got is a command wing. And I really like the command wing series, I just feel like it doesn't have enough faders on it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to jump into a program called bomes. And we're going to map these charming little faders. Let me just bring bomes up to where I can see it for myself. I wonder if I can scale the window a bit better. Yeah, lovely, cool. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to save the folder, and we're going to call it APC40 MA2. You can't see that window, but I can. Project successfully saved. Do not show in the future. So the first thing we need to do is set up our Midi routing. So we're going to route all our Midi to the virtual output, because we've got to translate all the data, and then we're also wanting to send the virtual and then yes, we're also going to want to send the virtual in to the APC so we can talk back to it. So once that's set up, we're going to put in all our translators. And I'm not going to map all the faders, but we'll map a couple of them. So we're going to call it fader 1. And we know that its incoming is going to be a control change. Now we don't know what notes it's going to be on. So if we click capture and we move the fader, we can see that it's coming in on channel 1 and CC control change 7. So if we change this to 7 and we set the variable to the lowest one, we set the value to 0, 0. I'm going to get rid of translator options. Essentially what we're doing is we're saying we want the system to listen on channel 0. It's not channel 0, it's channel... Oh no, it is channel 1. For a value. And then we need to route that out. So as outgoing, we need to go Midi message. We need to make it a note on. Just so it's not confusing, we're going to send it back on channel 10. And the reason I'm choosing channel 10, even though the two devices won't be able to see each other, like the console will be able to see it, but it won't be able to see these channels, I try to keep it outside of the range. I really just like the APC40 because it takes up 7 MIDI channels, which is a bit of a pain. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go, we want it to be note, the lowest one possible, and we want the velocity to be the value that we defined there. So now when we push the fader up, we're routing information out. So if we go into a conveniently opened MA session, there's a bunch of MIDI remotes because I've loaded up an old show file, so we're going to delete these quickly. And we can see that we're receiving Midi, but we're also receiving the dreaded Midi decoder new command control change. So MA understands that it's a control change, but we can't do anything with it. In bomes, what we can do is we can swallow the Midi message, so we're only passing through what we're routing. So now we'll see that we're not getting those CCs anymore. And it's giving me an error saying that it can't find remote number 1, which is fine. We know that. But now we're only routing the data we want to route through to it. If I push a button on the device, we can see that we've still got all the notes because all I've told it to do is when it receives something on 7, CC7, channel 1, to swallow that and not send the control changes through, but just translate that to notes. So we're going to do that a couple of more times. We're going to duplicate this. We'll only do 3 faders, just so you get a general flow of it. I really like bomes. It's a paid program, not a sponsor. Sadly, I wish it was a sponsor. But then we just repeat the process. So we grab fader 2, I name it. I always try to name them because when you do a massive device, it's hard to keep track. So fader 2 with capture MIDI on. We're going to move our second fader, and I already know what it's going to be. It's going to be channel 2. So all we have to do is change that to channel 2. And CC7 can stay, and we just need to change our variable to PP. We go down the bottom, we change it to node 1 now, and our velocity is PP. And once again, we check our workings, we make sure that it works, and we can see that I've now got 2 faders working, and we're going to repeat that process. Hello, Christian Jackson! Good to have you here, mate. Always a pleasure. Christian is a secret member of the console training community. He's one of our contributors, and he's the only other one that does YouTube videos, which is fantastic. I can never get any of the others to do YouTube content. So it's a joy to have you here today. And we'll go channel 3. And we change our thing to QQ. We do the same. There has to be, I reckon, a way of just doing them all at once. Once again, we check our working out, and we see that we've mapped 3 faders. How are we going here? Is this interesting to anyone? If it's not, we can move on. I will wait, and I will map another fader in the meantime. We can also map encoders if we really wanted to. I'm not going to be mapping encoders. For this, I really just want faders. And I also could map the buttons so that they work with the executor as well. Channel 4. RR. Two. Oh, hello. Oh, no, 1, 0. So we've mapped 4. I reckon we might leave it at 4. What do you think? We've got the general concept. We can do those, and if we want to map them to faders, we can. So we'll add 4 MIDI remotes. And we'll take down information so we know. Oops, that's wrong. It's going to be 0. Oh, no, actually, it's all going to be channel... What did we set it as? It would tell me here. I think we set it to 10. Yes, channel 10. Hello, Glenn. How are you today? Always good to see you as well. I mapped all my faders, but I don't have a command wing. You don't... Well, you need a command wing. You need MA hardware. As nice as the MIDI controllers are, you spend so much time doing what I'm doing now that it becomes quite painful. So we'll check that our 4 faders work. And we'll also make sure that we set them up as executors. So I'm going to start my faders at 7. Simply because I've got 6 faders on the command wing, and I want a couple more faders. So now we'll come out of this, we'll come into our combined view again, which I imagine is absolutely horrendous on a mobile phone, but maybe you'll be able to get the concept of hopefully what we're doing. I can zero in on screens if I have to, but essentially what we're going to try to do is we're going to just put things on faders and see how we go. So if I grab all our auras and I put them on fader 7, check that they work. Now we'll check whether it works on the desk. Ha! Doesn't. Interesting. What have I done wrong? Let's dive through our settings. Oh, as long as you got some MA hardware, it's alright. So I have, in fact, stuffed something up. Whoa, there we go. There's a screen gone. So what have I done wrong? 7. Have I failed to do my maths properly? Unless that's sending something interesting. Ah! There we go. That's better. Alright, we'll go back to our combined view when I'm not having a really dumb day. There we go. Much better. So we'll just copy that sequence. Check that all my faders work. Yep, lovely. And they don't interfere with each other. Lovely, awesome. Sweet. So, now we're going to start diving into... Now we've got Midi set up. Now I've got 4 extra faders. We're up to 10 faders. Awesome. I could do 15. But we understand the premise of what we've done here. We've mapped a device. We've taken a device that doesn't work directly with MA and we've brought it across. I showcased quite badly a little video that I took a while ago using the Midi fighter thing with MA, and I had also feedback. So when I turned something on the desk, a little light would turn on it as well. And that's running a little Lua script. Lua is a fantastically powerful programming language, especially on the MA. I'm really impressed they've implemented it because you can do really cool things with it. But essentially what that does is it's constantly reading and it says, if this is on, turn this light. And you can have 3 different statuses. There's a guy called Luke Stratton that built a giant MIDI controller thing with, I think it's the equivalent of a full size, so 30 faders, and it's got to be, you know, nearly 100 executive buttons. That's just quite amazing to do. So I've got a show file off our lovely compatriots website, mastages.com. Oh no, .wordpress. And we're going to quickly run through what we've got in the fixtures so far. So we've got some auras. Quite a large amount of auras. We've got some BIs, K20s, just in simple mode, so no pixel mapping. That's a really nice model on that as well. We've got some LED screen at the back, which will pixel map a bit. They're only the G-Lec 4x4s, so they're quite chunky LEDs. Like if we have a look, if we run an effect where, whatever I've got a rainbow, we can see that they're block effects. Oh, sorry, they're blocks. But we can still do a bit of pixel mapping with those. Some Robin 1200s for floor light. Some atomics. Every rig's got to have some atomics in it. Ooh. Pointies. Nice little fixture. Well, not little fixture. They have really nice gobos as well. Look at that. Yeah. I do like the robe stuff. We've got some pod LEDs. some lead bars, some floor pointies, and some blinders, of course. And the other thing we've got, if we just light up our pod LEDs and our K20s, is something called hoists, which uses the MA translate. And what we can do with those is we can move them. So we can bring them in, and we can even run effects over them. So if we run a bit of a tilt sign over them, we can get a nice little movement happening. So this is essentially emulating a kinesis system in a basic form, and it's really something cool to play with. And it's really fantastic. You can do it directly out of MA. So I've downloaded this show file. I haven't really done anything in it other than load my user profile. So there's a bunch of stuff. We can see that there's all these color presets here that are linked to something that's not even in the show file, which is interesting. So whenever I program a show that I've taken over from someone else, it's a fresh show. I don't need any of the presets. You can always delete presets. So I normally run delete preset. Let's do the colors first. 4.1 through. And that will delete all of them. But before we do that, let's have a look and make sure that there's nothing in there we actually need. So it's only the ones we can see. So we can do that. Delete preset 4.1 through 23. Now if we leave it at the through command, it'll delete all of the presets. Which sounds like what you want to do, but I remember touring through China and having a horrendous issue where I deleted presets thinking that we wouldn't need them, but they were way in the 500s because they were something that we were never touching and they were show critical. They were firing something to do with the actual pixel mapping, which led to some issues. You know, you live and learn, but in this case we can delete all the presets that we are using. 5.1 through. Yep. And we'll also do the position ones. So preset, delete, preset 2.1 through. And we can do it like that. So, Johan, I'm from Sweden. I wonder if there's a way to make a submaster for executors like temp faders with stored exact pan tilt effects on them like a playback master but controls more than intensity. So you can do a playback master and you can just limit the dimmer. You can also temp effects to change the size of them, or you can just put in a selected effect on a button. And can you change a Q on an active temp fader and bring it back to 0 again? Now that stays at home, I can't do a nice fade out with the fader. The best way of probably doing that, if you want to bring down two faders, is probably using... It's not an easy one to do because a playback master will limit it, but not in the way you want it. It's an interesting question. Give me some time to think about it. Anyway, we'll continue cracking through what we've done here. Delete preset 2.1 through. And now we've got a blank show other than the macros. We're going to delete the macros as well. And the MA tricks are actually mine. So I've just noticed I've got two clocks in this layout. That's not normal. And we'll get rid of the dynamic. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go setup, and we're going to auto create some palettes. Yep, palettes. And we're going to deselect color. And we're just going to merge all presets. So we've got all our presets coming across. Now the reason I haven't done color is because we're going to import one of my macros from my USB called build colors. And what build colors does, if we have a look at it, is it selects fixture 1 through 5000, puts everything in red, colors it as red. And obviously this doesn't work for color wheel fixtures, but we can at least go back quickly after we've done and just add those. So if we run this, we're going to watch our color palette light up with all the colors. And now we can go to our pointies. And we can quickly add in all the colors we need to. So open white. Find the right red. There we go, red. Green. Find the right blue as well. I'm not going to do them all. We get the point. That's pretty much steel color. That's not the color I'm after. Hello, Michael Ether. How are you today? Welcome to the glorious chat. But essentially you can go through and just do that. But now at least when we clear that out and we grab all our auras, all our BIs, pretty much everything. We can literally click and put the entire rig in red, entire rig in green, cyan, yellow, and then if we click to the ones that we haven't done, they'll stay in white. So we've got our palettes set up. I'm not going to do too much, because it's not an actual show, I'm not going to do too much paletting and stuff, but let's get some basics positions done. We'll do our auras first. Sort of tilt them out like that. Stick them in blue. And use our highlight. Now that is one way of doing it. But the lazy method, if we don't want to do every fixture one at a time, what we can do is we can select them all. We can pan them out to tilt them out to a rough position, and we can use our align tool. Due to the way that they've been numbered, this might not work the best. But we'll try it anyway. Oh, it might work a bit. Yeah, it's going to be a pain in the ass. Let's do a different fixture type. Let's do the BIs. They're a lot easier. They're in a nice line. I'm guessing right now someone is screaming at me. You could have used the something tool, the follow me option. Yes, you're right. I could have used follow, and we might do that in a sec. In fact, let's do that. Let's use the follow me. So we'll grab all our auras. We'll drop into a new view. First, saving our current view, because I've made a modification to it. I always forget to save views. we'll clear out our screen. We'll grab stage, and it's going to give us a stage view. We're going to bring those fixtures up. We're going to click follow, and we're going to click on the dot, and they're all magically going to go to the center. So for previs, this is a really fast way of doing it. Obviously, because I've put this on the wrong screen, I don't have my palettes. So we're going to quickly grab our position palettes again. Oh, I updated the global ones. Interesting. And we're going to update this to center. It's screwing me around because I'm using globals. Very bad of me to do that. So the only problem with follow is sometimes a fixture will misbehave and not do things as we expect. If you want to start an argument on which side of stage is prompt. It's always a fun one. So we can see that some fixtures completely flip around when we go to some positions. Like that. That's absolutely hideous. That's because in follow mode, it's looking for the fastest way between those two positions. But sometimes the fastest way isn't actually the cleanest way. Which is why you sometimes have to go through and you can use the flip tool. So if we, with a small amount of fixtures, it'd be easier. But we'll solo it because I know kind of roughly which fixture. I think it was that one does it nastily. If we go tools and we use flip, and we update that prompt position, we grab all our auras and we go prompt. We go to center, that's even worse. So sometimes the tricks work, sometimes they don't. Anyway, what we are here for is we're here for some pixel mapping. And we're going to start with pixel mapping as it was in the tutorial, which is just basic pixel mapping. So the first thing we need to do is, there are a couple of things we need to do. We need to create a layout pool. We're going to create a couple of those, so I'm going to leave it this. I'm going to build a bit of a layout view style thing here. And we'll save some space later for some presets. So we'll store this view as well. We're going to call this layout. And we're going to make it screen 3 exclusive. And we're going to go and patch our bitmap. Now, a question was asked yesterday, can you patch more than one bitmap? You certainly can. So we're patching a fixture called bitmap by MA Lighting. We've got to give it a DMX channel. We've got to give it a fixture ID. So I wonder if my fixture ID of 2016 is available. We'll also put it on its own universe 50.1. Yep, 2016 is available. Lovely. So we're going to grab fixture 2016. We're going to store it there. We're going to keep it the same name. And now we're going to create a layout view. So we've got a couple of things to layout view essentially. We're going to start with pixel mapping things. So we're going to we're going to make just a lead screen one for the moment. So if we grab our lead screen, which we can see, we can check, and we store it to a layout, we've got a layout view of the lead screen. But we can see that in MA, it knows where all, in stage view, it knows where all these pixels are. But in the layout view, it doesn't. So if we click setup, we grab all the fixtures, and we go arrange, and we go camera, it's going to arrange it as it is on stage view. And we're going to click apply, and we're going to go zoom to fit. And now we have a layout view that matches our stage view. So now we need to set up our layout view. We need to put a box around it because this is where we define where our pixel map is. So we're going to call it bitmap. And now when we grab our fixture, we're going to clear. I'm also going to need to drag in images. And we're going to need to import some of my content. We're going to grab... We're going to grab a file. So you can do video files and also images now. And then we're going to quickly just test that it works. So we're going to grab just our bitmap thing. We're going to give it the dimmer. We're going to go to images. We're going to select 15 from memory. 14, sorry, 14. And we're going to define it to layout 1. And there we have a pixel map running. That's a lot easier than it was in previous versions. I think it's fantastic. I think it's really nice and really simple and nice and easy to do. I'm really happy with this function, to be honest. So now we've got a pixel map. It looks alright. Obviously it's a bit low res because of the panels we're using. But we're gonna up the game. Before we go into and do different parameters, the next thing I want to do is I want to pixel map every LED thing that we have, which is going to be a bit interesting because I'm not sure how it's going to deal with 3D. It's the fun of live stream, I guess. So we're going to create a new layout view. We're going to grab LED screen. We're going to grab our BIs. We're going to grab our pod LEDs. We're going to grab our LED bars. And is there anything else we'd like to map? No. Now we're going to create another layout view. So with the fixtures selected, we're going to click store. We're going to call this all LED. And we're going to do our setup trick again. So we're going to click setup with the fixtures still selected. We're going to go arrange to camera. We're going to click apply. And we're going to go zoom to fit. And then we have our pixel map. And the camera thing, I learned it yesterday, and I'm going to keep banging on about this because for so long I have set up a stage view, or I've done an MA3D file that's been exported in or imported in from Vectorworks, and then I've gone, I still have to build my layout view. This is ridiculous. Thankfully now that's changed. The only problem is I have a feeling when we move our hoists, those won't move. But it'll be interesting. I doubt they will. But anyway, we'll repeat the same process. We'll draw a box around it. Like so. Make it a bitmap. We'll come out of setup. We'll go and repeat our process. So we go images 14. Layout view will be now 3. And then we've pixel mapped all the LED. But let's do our let's store that to a fader quickly. Let's see what happens when we grab our hoists. I doubt they'll match in the map. But I'm excited to find out what will happen. It would probably be easier to do and easier to check if I had a still image, but I doubt it. I think it's still mapping them to the top positions. Let's store that to a fader. So let's store just our hoists at 0. So it's going to be a reverse fader essentially. I could make the default 0, but I want the default 100. Let's store that to executor 7, which should be our first APC one. Ooh. Did I put something there? I must have put something there. Let's quickly try that. Let's set it to 50 and we'll see whether it should run. Be really easy to check this. All I'd have to do is grab the hoist and check that the position is changing. At some point, I should probably tempt the fader, hey? There we go, that's a bit better. I'm quite impressed with that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at also this pixel map, because obviously we need to size it a bit better. We want to make it slightly wider so that we get our external ones. And we're also going to play with the sizing of it so that we get it so it just hits all our content, like so. And we'll update it. Like so. Oh, where did I put that just then? I think I updated the wrong thing. Let's oops for a sec. Yes, I put it in the wrong thing. This is what happens when I break my own rule and I don't label things. Lovely. Now we've got a bitmap running. So, we did this yesterday. We didn't do it with obviously moving things. We did it with just LEDs. And we found that it works really well. It works really effectively. We can map content, and it looks quite good. Let's tilt these BRs. We actually haven't had a look at the front of these while they've been running. God, that looks good. It's such a simple way of mapping, and it's such a simple, easy, effective look. Hello, Isaac Jones. How are you today? How are you this morning? It'll be quite early where you are. It'll be around 8 a.m., 8:30 a.m. I think. Let's try to map some other parameters. So we'll clear out our little bitmap that we've got running here. And we're going to bitmap some other parameters. So we're going to... We can either stick with the layout view we've got, or we can use different things. I reckon if we use the auras, we'll get what we want. So what we'll do is we'll set that up. So now we're going to need another layout view. We're going to store this as auras. going to select auras. Now, if we do what we did before and we do from camera view, what we'll get is a 2D image. Not what we really want here. If we're doing it off camera, we're doing it off the stage view camera that we've got currently selected. So if we pull up cameras in pools, and we go top instead, and we zoom it out. Ooh, hello. We grab our stage view and we zoom it out a bit. We should now be able to repeat the process by clicking setup, camera, and now we get a preview. I'm not actually happy with that top view. Because it's still slightly on a slope, but that should be alright. We'll go camera and apply, and we'll take it out of that. We'll go zoom to fit, and now we've got our auras. So we're gonna patch another bitmap. We're also going to get rid of that cross. I'm going to call this 1217. We're going to give it channel layer. We're going to make a bitmap2. We're going to wait for it to push the show file across again. And we're going to go fixture 217. We're going to store it, and now we're going to deal with this. That way we can still run our lovely pretty one we had before. So we're going to go through, oh actually, what do we want to do? We've done color. We can do probably a position one. So to do a position one, it references position presets. So we need to grab our auras first, and we need to input a bit of information. Let me quickly save our layout view. We're going to go to program, and we're going to create some positions for these. So essentially we're setting high and low values like you would with an effects engine. So we're going to set Bmap low. We could also put in that they're auras. And we're going to set it to high as well. So we've got two values that it'll go between. Now we're going to jump back into our layout view. And we're going to grab Bitmap2. We're going to input our information again. So we're going to change our mode firstly. We're going to change it to position preset. And the VP and VP2 are your presets. So because we've already told it position presets, we know that it's 2. But we need to remember the numbers that I haven't. It's very naughty of me. I think they were 10 and 11, but we'll quickly pull out our position preset. Yeah, that's 10 and 11. So we type VP10, VP11, we grab image 14, we tell it to output to 5, and then theoretically it's running. But I've done this in a really stupid way, because I should have given the auras an intensity. So we're going to store literally just an intensity fader for the auras, and then when we run our bitmap, nothing happens. Let's dive through our settings, shall we? So we're outputting to layout 5, which is correct. We're using image 14, which is correct. We're running a position preset. And what have we forgotten to do? We have forgotten effects. So, in our effect engine, we've got a bunch of new effects available called bitmap position X, Y, and Z, but that are using the right parameters. So we're going to import those quickly, but we're going to do them not with our fixtures selected. Probably didn't need to clear the entire thing. Let's import them properly. Let's bring in a couple of different ones as well. Now with that in mind, if we select our bitmap2 and we grab position X, we can see them very subtly moving. We may need to select a different image. I should probably use one of the built-in ones that they've got. They added one, we just want literally a block. I reckon if we use that, believe it or not, is what we want. So we'll use image 15. I know image 15 is there somewhere. Yeah, it's in as 11. And we'll bring up our parameters again for that. We should get a bit of a better reaction from that. Let's check our fixtures, hey? See that they're actually doing something. Huh. They're not doing anything. Don't you love when things go horribly wrong? I like it. It's called problem solving. So let's quickly put it in dimmer mode. It's a fantastic way of checking whether it works. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We all make hilarious mistakes, and this is what happens when you do a live stream. I've done that. I've spent hours. We did it twice, and I forgot to draw the box. I knew I was doing something wrong. So we'll grab... Yeah, I know, I see. Thanks, guys. We'll grab bitmap. I can see people shouting at me in the chat. Oh, dear. We'll try that again, shall we? See, I seriously thought they were moving. Clearly my eyes are playing tricks on me. That's so embarrassing. I can't believe I did that. Ah, hilarious. Position preset. And let's grab our image 15 again. But they're still not moving. What have I done wrong? I've done something wrong. Let's check my information again. So, position preset. Let's do dimmer for a sec. Or we'll check RGB plus dimmer. Let's rebuild because I feel like I've missed something along the way. So we'll do it normally. Image 14. Layout 5. give it some intensity. We can see that it's running perfectly. The sizing is a bit off, but that's okay. We'll give it image 15 because I want to build essentially the effect first, and I have a feeling that if we do it like this, we'll have a better chance of doing it. Because then we can at least see visually exactly what it's doing. Because what I want is... That's perfect. So we can see that it's going from left to right. And we're going to change our high and low values. Because I don't want that big empty gap that we've got there. Let's bring it up to just 1% so we can at least put it on a fader. Oh, sorry, on an encoder and bring it up. Whoa, hello. That's not 1%. Ah. That's a bit better. Speed it up as well. So the other issue I've got right now is obviously the file size, the size of it isn't correct. I need to make it slightly larger. Not X-wise, probably Y-wise. There we go, that's a bit better. Ah, that looks much better. Okay, so now we've got it working. We can now fiddle with the stuff that we wanted to. So we can change it from mode to our position preset, and we can put in 10 to 11. And we're going to click store, and we're going to create a new one. We're going to put it on fader 6. And then when we give it an intensity, we've got the world's most hideous looking thing, but at least we can see that it's a sweeping motion. So when we've put it on movement, we can see that it's rapidly too fast. So we'll dive into the editor as well. Grab the effect back, and now we can slow it down a bit. And that looks a bit better. But what path is it following now? So it's the answer to that is it's going between our two dimmer the position presets we set up. So if I update this, it's using the two position presets that we set ages ago before I forgot to draw a box around things. It's referencing this one and this one. So I reckon where you'll really notice things like this is when you're using like focus and stuff, like, you know, well, zoom and stuff especially. You'll get that nice sort of sine wave look. And instead of having to create an effect to do it, you can literally just essentially drag a box across the item to get a nice flowing thing. Oh, so the thingy that's item 15, I'll bring up slightly larger for you, is essentially an image of a scanner, but it's a big square object, and I wanted this big square object. I could have just created a square, but I've just used something out of the predefined library, just something that you can, you know, essentially animate across all these. So we could see when we ran it as a dimmer preset, it gave it, sorry, I was reading Glyn's answer. We gave it essentially a block, and we sized that object out so it was the full length of the auras, not just the small scale of it, and then we just told it to move essentially the item like moving content from left to right. So if we grab that bitmap now and we drop that back into RGB plus dim and we killed our dimmer, we would see that it's bringing that object slowly from left to right. I wonder if you can see it better. You can't really see it better. That might help a bit. So you can see essentially it's just dragging that object across all those LEDs. No, so the only effect we're running. So I've been chopping and changing. I built it looking at the effect. Well, I built the effect because it's two parts. If you use a video file, it'll just run the video file in loop. But if you just use an image, it'll sit the image in the middle and just map it. To get it to actually move, we had to use one of the bitmap effects, which is taking the x-axis and essentially moving the object back and forth. It's always nice having people in the chat that are actually helpful. But that looks fantastic. I'm actually really happy with the way that bitmapping now works. It's so much easier than it was having to use a camera and stuff. And now we don't have to have, you know, if we're running an RGB effect or something, we don't actually have to have two faders. We can control our intensity separately. So the other thing that's in the fantastic bitmap manual that they've released is they say that the bitmap takes the lowest precedence. So last night when I tried to do this, I couldn't get it to work. I couldn't get it to move, and that was because I'd created an intensity fader that also had pan tilt information on it. And the moment you do that, it'll stop functioning. But we can still get some nice, you know, just by playing with the thing. Effects work on any bitmap parameters as they would on any fixture, exactly. And they look fantastic. So if we could do the same thing with a zoom, we could do the same thing with a gobo. We could have a wheel through a gobo wheel. I'm pretty sure your repair department for your moving lights would hate that one because you damage gobo wheels quite quickly. But it'd be probably nice, it'd be probably interesting to try it over something like prism rotation from two different points. So you get sort of that, or even a focus change. So you get a nice wave across your fixtures, a sine wave of just in focus, out of focus, in focus, out of focus. But it's a really, really powerful feature. It's not just copying the competition and going, look, now you can do video mapping, and now you don't have to do it with a media server. You can just do it on the console. It's gone a bit above and beyond that of being able to map any parameter. I just keep recalling this pixel map because it was just so painless to set up. I'm just so impressed with it. It just looks fantastic. Yes, there is a way of displaying text over the matrix. You'd need to bring in an image file of the text. So you'd need to create a file in Paint and bring it in like that. But you can definitely do that. Anything it takes in certain file formats. So let me call up the, without breaking anything, let me call up the bitmap manual. So the formats that it supports is VB8 or WebM, MPEG, so most of your MPEGs, your AVIs, your MOVs, your MPVs and all those type of files are supported, and then pretty much most image types, so bitmap, JPEG, GIF, PNG, TIFF files are all supported. TIFF files are good, especially if you've got a mask in it or something, but it does a lot of things. It's really fantastic. And I like the way of programming in a virtual fixture to deal with. But as for doing text, there is no way of, as far as I know, I can confidently say there is no way of typing in text in MA and having it appear on your screen. You're going to have to bring it in as an image file. But you could bring in a really long image if you wanted scrolling text and you just animate it. So to go left to right in the same way. So you could use a position X. And I mean, we can modify, if I grab our first bitmap right now with none of the effects running on it, I can manipulate its position. You know, I can drop it down or higher or lower without having to involve the effects engine. But even stuff like that, even animating an effect that, you know, starts from the bottom, let's just get rid of these, and just goes slowly up, looks really good. And it's really simple. So if we grabbed the, you know, bitmap Y position, we can see that as an effect as well. And just as you can with any effect, you can set your highs and lows so it never leaves the screen. Yeah, look, MS Paint isn't too bad. If you need text, you can do it out of Photoshop or any of those applications. So the limit that you've got for image files is, or anything that's dropped into the image pool, is 100 meg. So we can see the size limit. It's 100 meg per show file. So you're limited to 100 meg in total. 64 meg per image or video file and 100 meg. And playback priorities also work correctly now. Hurrah. Effects still don't always appear in the off menu. So despite having an effect running, I still don't have that. But we can now at least, you know, effects can now be live updated, which was a bug that was around for a fair amount of time. But that's been fixed. To be honest, I'm really happy with 3.2. I'm yet to run it on a console. But all the show files that I've tested with so far have had minimal issues. I've seen one where a layout view flickers a little, but other than that, it's worked flawlessly. The problem with the giant beast that is MA is that there are so many things that can go possibly wrong with it. And whenever you add a feature, there's always a chance that you'll break something else because of the feature. Yeah, VPU for bitmaps was a challenge. I mean, in 3.2 they haven't depreciated VPU teaser mode. You can still use VPU and have your one layer and still do, you know, a bit more than you can do on the console, but this is so much better. You never want to be running a massive file on it anyway, and you can always compress your file down so it's quite small in size. I mean, the one I'm running is, you know, a 720p file. But you can always get it down. If you know how many pixels you can do, you can get it within at least a pixel thing. I mean, looking at what we're running here, you know, 640 by 480, you can get a lot of files of that size in. I also have to say this MA3D file that I've got today is wonderful. Someone's put a lot of work into these files. And their level of detail is just unbelievable. I mean, they've got a K20 model in there that looks really nice. Those are through the floor. Oh, the other thing that's been added in MA 3.2, which made the release notes, is we now have another default fixture icon. You now have a source for conventional, which has no barrel on it, but you know, at least that's something. So you can now have a source for. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in. Hopefully this has been educational to you. We didn't really cover too much of show setup, and we wasted about 10 minutes with me forgetting to run a circle around an object. But hopefully it's been beneficial to you. The live stream like this will be available for probably the next hour, and then it'll probably be replaced by a 4K high def version. Just before we end, I'd love to know how this looked, because the project that I'm looking at out of XSplit is encoded in 4K, and we've only been able to push 1080 to YouTube. So I'd love to know whether you can actually see all three windows, or we need to start just using one window for MA, so you can actually see, you know, the full res. So rather than you know, a view like that, we have a split screen which is just MA 3D and this. Looks fine in 1080. Fantastic. Well, there aren't many of you that are using 1080. I can tell you how many there are. There is 6 people running 1080. There's a lot more people running 320, which I imagine is off a mobile phone. It's obviously really hard to do something off a mobile phone and just get anything out of MA. But hopefully it's been beneficial. And thank you for watching. It's been a pleasure. I didn't get to answer your question, Johan, regarding doing playback masters, but I'm sure if you post in the MA forum, someone will give you a lot better of an answer than I could.